Hey, how's it going out there? We're gonna switch out glass in a casement window today. So I'm gonna show you how to pop this off. We're gonna use a flat bar. I'm gonna remove this right here. Rotate that out, do the same thing here. Rotate that over out of the way. Now, notice I have this sash straight out. If it were not straight out, it would get out of balance and it would try to come down on us. So when you do this, make sure the sash is straight out. And the last one you want to release is the top one. So you can hold it when you release it. And right now, all of the pins are released. I'm going to carry the weight out here. And I'm going to spin this in. Okay, the bottom's ready to come out. Now the top one I do last. There we go. Okay, now get a different grip. Okay, now we'll take it in and deglaze it. Okay, now we've got the sash set up on the ground here to deglaze the glazing beads. That's step one. But before we did that, we put down tarps, protective carpet in the flooring. I would always recommend, if you're not working on carpet, to put knee pads on because your knees only last so long. So anyhow, the very first thing we're gonna do is take the chisel. There's an angled side and a flat side. We're gonna put the flat side towards the glass. Get that in there. And keeping all of our pressure on it very carefully because this is wood grain. Lift our way down about an inch. Do it again. Taking our time. And basically we're trying to get that very first ledge to unlock. And once that unlocks, you should be able to get back down underneath it over here. And you can kind of see, if you can get over here from the edge, how that's put together. See how it's an L? But there's a lip right there on the very top that we have to try to maneuver past. That's the very first challenge. Once you get it maneuvered past it, then you can kind of work it up just like that. Work your way all the way around and get all four pieces off. Okay, now that we have all the glazing beads off on this side, we're going to take the sash and rotate it onto its face. And we're going to take our flexible, this is a very flexible putty knife, and it's at a slight angle. It's a very sharp blade. But we just work it in here and very carefully work it down. Sometimes it may take several passes. Now when I get to the corner, I rotate it. And now see that angle? I'm trying to hold that parallel to this one. So I'm gonna put it back in down here. And when I get to the very corner, now I know that that very tip of this blade went all the way to the corner to sever the glazing, the silicone glazing that's in there. All right, just keep working your way all the way around. Sometimes if your point is going in, it may dig into the vinyl. So I like to always have it this way. And then I know it's not digging into the vinyl as much. But when I get to the very corner, like I said, you have to turn it back around, hold it parallel to this one until you get all the way into the corner and sever that silicone. And then just work your way all the way around. Okay, I think we've gotten all the way around. To release that silicone, just carefully remove the glass separate the sash and the glass. We're going to be careful and gentle with the sash because that's what we are reusing. The glass is the old glass with the old style blinds, and we're going to put new glass with new style blinds in them. So I'm going to remove this glass and take it out to the truck. Okay, this is the new glass, and it came in a protective sash. We're going to remove these little glazing beads. They're just little partial beads. We're also going to remove these stickers, and these are for the customer. They give you little QR codes, gives them instructions on how to operate the blinds and how to care for the blinds. So I'm just going to carefully remove those and stick these to the paperwork that we give the customer so they can keep those in their file. I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead and just dispose of these, but I always make sure that we get at least one copy to the homeowner. Just removing all of that. That's for shipping. And again, I'm going to remove the glass out of here. And I'll show you, once I get this out, we'll cut the video for just a second, but once I get it out, I'll show you the black setting blocks that are in here, and we're gonna wanna keep those and reuse them in the old existing sash. So I'll go ahead and deglaze this, and we'll be right back with you. Okay, we just deglazed this sash and took the glass out of the sash. Now I'm gonna just set this off to the side. Always setting it on plastic or a tarp. We never want to set it on the carpet or flooring. And carefully lean that up against a stable surface. But here's the setting pads or the setting blocks that I was talking about. And we want to remove these and reuse them. They have a self-adhesive back, just rubber. But these are the exact size that we want to use when we set the glass in the old existing sash, and this will give us the proper spacing and squareness of that sash, so everything is just perfect and there's no hourglassing or flexing or warping of the sash. It always stays true to the glass by using these glazing pads. Okay, this is the old glass that we just took out of the old sash. I'm going to put it into the new protective sash that was shipped to us by the factory. And the only reason why I'm doing that is just to keep it from breaking in the truck on us and to keep everything a little safer. And then I'll reglaze these little pieces here, and that'll hold it in place throughout shipping. Yeah. So I'm just putting these little pieces back in. Again, these are called glazing beads. Using a dead blow hammer, I'll put another one on this side. Okay, all I'm doing now is removing the setting pads that were on here, existing originally from the factory. So we're going to remove all of those, and then what we're going to do is just take a 3/8 inch thick chisel, and we're going to, it's about the perfect size to fit in this glazing channel here. But we're just going to carefully go through this whole thing and remove the old sealant. And so once we get that sealant cleaned out of there and get all these out of there, we can lay a new bead of sealant. We like to use Quad Max Clear. We go around with the new Quad Max Clear, set the new glass in, put the spacers in, and we'll talk about how to properly put the spacers in. It's very important to put these in the right spots. Okay, now that we have the sash all cleaned up, you can see there's no more silicone, everything looks good. And the setting blocks are all out. We're just gonna go all the way around and apply a pretty decent bead, but you do not want to get too close to the black rubber, which is called durometer. You don't want to get too close to the black durometer, and the reason being is you don't want this sealant to go all over the place when the glass smashes up against it. So we're just gonna put a nice even bead all the way around. And after we're done with this, we will be ready to set the glass. But before we do that, we have to actually do some special things to the glass to make sure that it is also cleaned up and ready to go. Because sometimes the glass coming from the factory will have some extra, I don't even know what to call it, extra sealant on it that you don't want, and it will cause the glass to set in here out of square. So we want to make sure we get the glass cleaned up also. So I'm going to continue to get this prepped and get all four sides with the sealant, and then I'll show you how we're going to work on the glass. Okay, what I've done here is I set the glass on a rubber trash can so it doesn't scratch the glass, but it gives me a nice working surface here, elevating the glass so I'm not digging into the carpet or the flooring with my razor blade. But what I'm doing, you can see the extra sealant that is built up on the corners, and if I don't remove this, then the setting block is going to try to squeeze in here, and that'll push this glass too far that way in the sash, and everything will just be out of square. So it's a little bit of time invested here, but it will definitely pay dividends. This is our 9th glass unit that we've done today, and the first one we didn't do that. It took us a long time to square it up, The next 8, we are definitely doing it, and it's going in a lot smoother, and the finish work and the squareness is perfectly true every time. So it just takes a little time and effort. You gotta be really careful not to cut yourself. That's why I always use my safety gloves. This side looks pretty good, but there's still a little bit there, and that can throw you off. But again, I'm only doing the corners. Probably should have mentioned that. I'm only doing the corners because that's where it's most important, where we're putting the setting pads, and I'll show you that in the next segment here about where to position those setting pads, and that is extremely important. But that's why I'm only doing the corners. I'm not doing the entire edge. You can see there's some other areas down here that look kind of so. I don't have to worry about those because I'm only putting a setting pad here and here on all the 4 corners, and then I'll do 1 or 2 in the centers as well. So I want to make sure I have a couple nice, easy, cleaned up spots everywhere there as well. Okay, I have the new glass centered over the sash, and just carefully line it up so it touches. Get the top started, and then let it drop. All right. So now we're going to talk about where to put those setting blocks. So this is the bottom where the hinge is. That's one of the most important spots, is the bottom hinge, and then you go opposite, top opposite, and that is also the most important. These will go, if it's a triple pane unit that's got the thicker glass, which this does, you're going to put the setting pads in this way. If it's the typical 7/8 unit, 7/8 thick, you go in this direction. This is 1 3/8 inches thick. So they go in vertically like that. I'm just going to slide the glass over a touch, drop that one in right at that corner, and then push that tight, and then come up here and do the same thing. And these do get a little bit tougher, and I'll show you a technique when they get a little tighter on how to accomplish it when it gets a little tighter. Okay, so far so good. Another benefit to the gloves that I'm wearing is that they're very grippy, so they're able to push on the glass and pull on the sash. I'm trying to just create a bigger gap over here. There we go, perfect. The center ones are always easy because you can flex this pretty easily, so those are easy to do. And now I work on the opposite corners. These typically do not carry any weight, but it's always good to keep them square and true. So we still want to put the glazing pads in there if we can fit them in there. And so far so good. So that's perfect. So if you want to zoom in on one of those corners and see exactly what that placement looks like. Okay, I forgot to show you this technique, but all of those went in very easy. But I'll show you on this one here. This technique here, you have to be careful when you do it because you don't want to slide a lot of friction against the glass. You may create a piece of glass to chip off. So you put the first one in, and then you put the second one in behind it. And that way your friction is up against the sash, not the glass. And if you need a third one, you put it in between them. And then hold them together like a sandwich. Tap them in. And sometimes that's easy, sometimes it's not. And then you set your setting block in there. And then when you remove them, you go in the exact opposite order, the center one first. And what I'm doing is I'm holding this one so it doesn't move. Again, I don't want it to shard off any chips of glass. Then I do this one. And then by the time I get to this one, there's room in there and you're not having any friction up against that glass, causing any glass chips. So now I feel very confident this sash is very square and all the setting pads are where they belong. And I'll start glazing the beads back on. These glazing beads, you have to be careful with them. They have, again, that L, and that L, as you can see here, needs to go in the receiving slot. And if you miss that slot, you'll be between the glass and the sash and you'll break the glass. So I'm gonna, again, show you how that goes right in that groove there. I don't wanna be here. That's not in the right groove. I wanna be here. And then to get that started, I'm hitting more towards the sash side than I am the glass side. Hammers and glass typically don't mix. So I like to start on each end, and then I come back down here, do the same thing.
Why do you start on each end?
If I were to go start at that end and only go all the way this way, by the time I get down here, this will move and it'll overhang here and be too far. And then I have to undo it and start over. So if I do a little down there and then do a little bit down here and then work my way to the middle, then I'm guaranteed that this will always fit. Go. So here I'm making sure my miter is nice, and then I get it started. Now on this end I have some interference, so I'm gonna grab a shim. Sometimes I grab 2 or 3 and it makes a block. And work my way down. And by using the shims, basically, see how it's higher? The shims are higher than the hinge that's interfering. So it gets me above, almost like a bridge, and it allows me to hit on the shim, and it's allowing me to hit right where I want to hit and not damage the glass or the sash. Okay, I normally don't have the luxury of having a nice porch right here, but I do on this one, so I'm going to do it from the outside. It's a little easier to get it started. The tricky part is when you get it into that, you want that black guide, or glide I should say, to fall right on top of the silver glide, and then you get it just about an inch in, and then you go to the top and you do the same thing. And it's a little tricky on a tall window like this, but you rotate that 90 degrees, and sometimes to get that to go in you have to lift the weight of the sash up. Okay, once you get that in, go in a couple inches, and then line that right up and push down, and then do the same at the bottom. Line that up and push down, and then open or close the window as needed to line this hole with that pin, and that's underneath. Squeeze it together and you hear it click. Then you go back inside the house and you operate the sash to make sure everything works and locks and aligns perfectly. Okay, on the exterior here, we did an inspection. It looks just, to me, I believe that this is just a hair tighter on this side than it is on this side. So I would like to see this sash go like this just a little bit. And to do that, we have an adjustment wrench. So this wrench is a special wrench. It has this throat opening here. So we have to open this window, and that will allow us to then get up here to, there's a nut where that pin was. We're gonna rotate that just a little bit, and I'm gonna open the window and show you how to do that. Okay, so we want the window to go this direction. To get the window to go this direction, I'm gonna make my wrench go that direction, so just the opposite. And here's the nut that I was telling you about. All right, I can't see it. Let me do this. And yes, there's the flat spot. Okay, so it should be straight out. So I should be able to put my wrench straight onto it. There it goes, like that. So if If I want the sash to go that way, I need to rotate my wrench the opposite direction. So I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit, right there. Put the hinge back on there if I can. And then give it a try and let me know how the reveals look. Okay, and then on the inside, you can also look at reveals up against this edge. You can look at the lines that are in the sash. And if this is an 1/8 inch different from the edge on this side, then you want an 1/8 inch on that side. So you can also do that visual inspection on the inside as well. And that's how you line up a casement using the adjustment wrench.